Imagine stumbling upon a treasure chest buried deep in the earth, overflowing with glittering diamonds, shimmering oil, and precious minerals. Sounds like a dream come true, right? But what if I told you that for many nations, this very abundance has become a nightmare, a poison that corrodes economies, ignites wars, and traps generations in poverty? Welcome to Buried Treasures, Broken Nations, the shocking truth behind the resource curse, where we dive into one of the most baffling paradoxes in modern history. Picture this: countries like Venezuela, sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, yet plagued by hyperinflation, food shortages, and mass exodus. Or Angola, rich in diamonds and oil, but where over half the population lives in abject poverty, despite billions in revenue. This isn't just bad luck. It's the resource curse, a phenomenon first coined by economist Richard in 1993, describing how nations blessed with natural riches often end up cursed with slower growth, rampant corruption, and violent conflicts compared to resource-poor neighbors like South Korea or Taiwan. We'll explore jaw-dropping case studies, from blood diamonds fueling African civil wars to oil booms busting Latin American economies, uncovering the hidden mechanisms like Dutch disease that strangle diversification and price volatility that wrecks budgets. Did you know that since the 1970s, oil-rich countries have seen authoritarian regimes last twice as long as others? Or that resource-dependent nations are 23 times more likely to experience civil war? Stick around as we unravel why Mother Nature's gifts can turn deadly, backed by eye-opening stats from the World Bank and IMF, and hear stories of real people caught in this trap, like Nigerian communities facing environmental challenges from oil extraction, or Congolese workers in mineral sites dealing with economic hardships. By the end, you'll see how some countries are fighting back with transparency initiatives and sovereign funds, offering hope amid the horror. But first, let's hook you with a startling fact. In the last 50 years, sub-Saharan Africa has extracted over $1 trillion in minerals, yet poverty rates have barely budged. How is that possible? Let's find out together in this eye-opening journey that will change how you view global wealth forever. As we peel back the layers, remember, not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes it's a grenade in disguise. Now let's define this curse and see why it's not just theory, but a tragic reality for millions. To truly understand, we must examine how this paradox plays out in everyday economies and societies, where abundance leads to unexpected downturns. For instance, the World Bank notes that resource-rich countries often grow 1 to 2% slower than others, a gap that widens over decades. Take the Democratic Republic of Congo, home to vast cobalt and copper reserves essential for modern technology, yet ranking among the lowest in human development indices. Here, mineral wealth has not translated into widespread prosperity, instead contributing to ongoing economic instability. Similarly, in Sudan, oil and gold have generated revenues, but these have not evenly benefited the population, leading to regional disparities. Economists like Jeffrey Sachs and Andrew Warner quantified this in the 1990s, showing through data that heavy reliance on exports like oil or minerals hampers long-term progress. The IMF echoes this, highlighting how commodity price swings can devastate budgets, with a 10% oil price drop slashing government funds by up to 20%. This volatility discourages investment in education and infrastructure, perpetuating cycles of underdevelopment. Moreover, the Natural Resource Governance Institute points out secrecy in contracts allows elites to control benefits, excluding the broader public. In Equatorial Guinea, oil has built infrastructure for a few, while access to basic services remains limited for many. These patterns reveal a systemic issue where potential blessings become burdens, setting the stage for deeper exploration into the roots and remedies of this global challenge. So, what exactly is this resource curse that's turned bountiful lands into barren wastelands of opportunity? At its core, the resource curse, also known as the paradox of plenty, is the ironic twist where countries overflowing with non-renewable treasures like oil, minerals, and diamonds suffer from stunted economic growth, undemocratic governments, and social unrest far more than their resource-scarce counterparts. Think about it. While nations like Norway have turned oil into a sovereign wealth fund worth over $1.5 trillion, benefiting every citizen, places like Nigeria, with similar oil wealth, see 40% of their population in extreme poverty, despite generating $400 billion in oil revenue since 1960. Economists like Jeffrey Sachs and Andrew Warner first quantified this in the 1990s, showing through statistical analyses that resource-dependent economies grow 1 to 2% slower annually than diversified ones. The curse manifests in multiple ways. Economic volatility from fluctuating commodity prices, where a 10% drop in oil can slash government budgets by 20%. Political corruption, as easy resource rents reduce the need for taxation and accountability. And social ills like inequality, where the top 1% captures 80% of the wealth in Angola. Eye-catching examples abound. Venezuela's oil bonanza under Hugo Chavez led to a GDP per capita plummet from $10,000 in 2013 to under $2,000 today, amid hyperinflation hitting 1,000,000%. Shocking, isn't it? In the Democratic Republic of Congo, diamond and mineral riches have funded wars killing over 5 million since 1998, turning playgrounds into battlegrounds. Studies from the Natural Resource Governance Institute highlight how secrecy in extractive industries breeds this curse, with contracts hidden from public view, allowing elites to siphon billions, like in Equatorial Guinea, where oil money built palaces for the president's son, while 75% of people lack clean water. But why does this happen? It's not fate, it's a cocktail of human greed and systemic flaws. As we delve deeper, you'll discover how historical precedents set the stage for this global tragedy, from colonial exploitations to modern-day heists. Hang on, because the roots of this curse run deeper than you think, tracing back centuries to empires built on plundered wealth. The phenomenon isn't limited to a few nations, it's widespread. Bloomberg's Quick Take explains how striking gold or oil often leads to mismanagement, crowding out other sectors and tying fates to volatile global prices. In Brazil, rich in oil and iron ore, resource booms have sometimes exacerbated inequality, despite overall growth. The United Nations Development Program notes that many African countries, despite mineral abundance, lag in human development indices. Political scientists argue that oil wealth makes authoritarianism more likely, with governments using rents to maintain power without broad taxation. This reduces incentives for efficient governance, as seen in Middle Eastern petrostates, where welfare spending masks underlying vulnerabilities. The World Bank's reports emphasize that the curse stems from large upfront costs, long production timelines, and the non-renewable nature of resources, fostering short-term thinking. In contrast, countries like Botswana have mitigated this through transparent diamond management, achieving steady growth. These contrasts highlight that the curse is conditional on institutions, paving the way for understanding its historical evolution and how past patterns inform today's challenges.
To truly grasp the resource curse, we must journey back through history, where the seeds of this paradox were sown long before modern economists labeled it. Picture the Spanish Empire in the 16th century, flooded with silver and gold from the Americas. Yet instead of prosperity, it led to inflation, deindustrialization, and eventual decline, a phenomenon early observers called the Spanish disease, a precursor to today's Dutch disease. Fast forward to the 19th century, when colonial powers like Britain and Belgium ravaged Africa for ivory, rubber, and minerals, leaving behind extractive institutions that prioritized plunder over development. Think King Leopold's Congo Free State, where millions faced hardships extracting rubber, setting a template for resource exploitation that persists. By the mid-20th century, post-colonial nations inherited this legacy. Iran's 1950s oil nationalization sparked coups and instability, while Ghana's cocoa boom in the 1960s funded grandiose projects but crashed when prices fell, leading to debt and coups. Eye-opening stats from Wikipedia and NBER papers reveal that since decolonization, 70% of resource-rich developing countries have experienced negative growth episodes lasting over a decade. Take Bolivia's tin curse in the early 1900s, where mineral wealth concentrated power among elites, stifling democracy and leading to revolutions. Or Russia's Siberian oil discoveries in the Soviet era, which masked inefficiencies until the 1990s collapse exposed corruption. Historians like Duran Acemoglu argue these patterns stem from extractive institutions that favor short-term gains over long-term investment, as seen in Sierra Leone's diamond rush post-independence, fueling the 1990s civil war. Astonishingly, even ancient civilizations weren't immune. The Roman Empire's reliance on plundered gold from conquered lands led to economic stagnation and fall. Today, this history repeats in places like Sudan, where oil and gold revenues since the 2000s have bankrolled conflicts displacing millions. But let's zoom in on the black gold that's cursed more nations than any other, oil, and uncover its devastating trail across the globe. The idea dates back to 1711, with The Spectator noting that countries of greatest plenty often have the poorest living. Richard Audie formalized it in 1993, linking mineral riches to underperformance. In Latin America, colonial silver mines created inequalities that lingered, as per historical analyses. The NBER's Jeffrey Frankel survey highlights how African nations like Angola and Nigeria, rich in oil, face low per capita income despite wealth. Colonial legacies in sub-Saharan Africa, per Oxfam reports, reinforce dependence on extractives, undermining diversified growth. In Asia, Indonesia's oil boom in the 1970s led to temporary prosperity but later volatility. These historical threads show how past exploitations shape current curses, emphasizing the need for strong institutions to break the cycle. As we transition, consider how oil, more than any resource, exemplifies this enduring legacy in modern contexts.
Oil, the lifeblood of the modern world, has ironically drained the vitality from countless nations, embodying the resource curse in its slickest form. Consider Saudi Arabia, where vast reserves have built skyscrapers in the desert, but also entrenched in absolute monarchy, with oil rents funding repression. Human Rights Watch reports thousands of political prisoners amid zero taxation, reducing citizen oversight. In Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer, $600 billion in revenues since 1970 have vanished into corruption, leaving the Niger Delta a toxic wasteland, where spills equivalent to the Exxon Valdez happen yearly, killing fisheries and sparking militancy like the Boko Haram insurgency. Shocking IMF data shows oil-dependent economies like Algeria experience GDP volatility 3 times higher than diversified ones, with a 20% price drop causing 15% budget cuts, leading to unrest, as in the 2019 protests. Venezuela's tale is heartbreaking. Once Latin America's richest, its oil boom turned bust under mismanagement, with production halving since 2016, hyperinflation at 65,000%, and 7 million refugees fleeing, a direct result of Dutch disease, where oil appreciation killed manufacturing, making the economy 90% reliant on crude. Angola's oil, comprising 95% of exports, has enriched elites like the Dos Santos family, who amassed $4 billion fortunes, while 68% of Angolans live on less than $2 a day, per World Bank reports. Even Russia, with its Siberian fields, saw oil windfalls fuel Putin's authoritarianism, suppressing dissent and invading neighbors to control more resources. Eye-catching anecdotes include Iraq's post-2003 oil surge, exacerbating sectarian violence, killing hundreds of thousands. But oil isn't alone. Let's shift to the sparkle of diamonds, whose curse has left bloodstains across Africa. Investopedia explains the mechanics. Focus on one industry neglects others, leading to contraction. Michael Ross's research shows oil makes authoritarian regimes more durable. In Azerbaijan, oil built modern infrastructure but hid governance issues. The Carnegie Endowment notes how oil-dependent economies like Kazakhstan manage risks through strategies, but many fail. Chevron's long presence in Angola amid changes shows persistence, yet national development lags. These cases illustrate how oil's allure masks deeper economic traps, urging a look at other resources like diamonds for similar patterns. Diamonds, symbols of eternal love, have paradoxically sown seeds of endless hate in resource-cursed lands, earning the moniker blood diamonds for financing Africa's deadliest conflicts. In Sierra Leone, the 1991 to 2002 civil war, fueled by diamond smuggling, saw rebels like the Revolutionary United Front engage in severe human rights issues affecting 20,000 civilians in their Operation No Living Thing, all to control alluvial diamond fields. UN estimates show $125 million in gems-funded arms, displacing half the population. Liberia's Charles Taylor exploited similar deposits, trading diamonds for weapons in a war killing 250,000, leading to his 2012 war crimes conviction. Shocking stats from the Kimberley process reveal that conflict diamonds once made up 15% of global trade, now down to 1% thanks to certification, but smuggling persists. Angola's UNITA rebels used diamond revenues to prolong a 27-year civil war, ending in 2002, with over 500,000 dead and mines still posing risks today. In Zimbabwe, the Morange fields discovered in 2006 led to military actions affecting miners and revenues siphoned by the regime, leaving locals in squalor despite $2 billion annual yields. Global Witness reports highlight how these gems exacerbate inequality, with miners earning pennies while corporations and warlords reap billions. The Central African Republic's diamond trade funds ongoing militia activities, displacing 1 million since 2013. Eye-opening is Botswana's exception, where transparent management turned diamonds into 7% annual growth, proving the curse isn't inevitable. Yet, for minerals like coltan and cobalt, the curse digs even deeper, as we'll see in the Congo's tragic saga. Amnesty International notes how certification schemes like Kimberley help, but challenges remain. The World Bank's documents link diamonds to prolonged conflicts due to easy extraction. In the DRC, diamonds intermingle with other minerals in fueling instability. Fiveable's notes on political geography emphasize how such resources lead to poorer outcomes. These stories underscore diamonds' dual nature, prompting reflection on ethical sourcing and international efforts to mitigate impacts. In the heart of Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo stands as the epitome of the mineral curse, where vast deposits of coltan, cobalt, copper, and gold have ignited the deadliest conflict since World War II. Home to 70% of the world's cobalt, essential for EV batteries, the DRC has seen over 6 million deaths since 1996, with armed groups controlling mines through exploitative labor practices, including involvement of underage workers in hazardous conditions, per Amnesty International. The Great African War, from 1998 to 2003, involved 9 nations, all vying for mineral spoils worth $24 billion annually, leading to widespread human rights violations affecting 200,000 women. Shocking World Bank data shows despite $10 billion in mineral exports yearly, 73% of Congolese live in extreme poverty, with corruption siphoning 90% of revenues. In Ituri province, gold mines fund ethnic militias, displacing 5 million and causing famines. Rwanda and Uganda's involvement, profiting $320 million from smuggled coltan during the war, highlights regional spillovers. Studies from the Enough Project detail how electronics giants indirectly fuel this by sourcing untraced minerals. Even tin and tungsten add to the curse, with rebels taxing miners at 30%, perpetuating cycles of violence. Eye-catching is the 2020 surge in demand for green tech minerals, ironically worsening exploitation. Cobalt prices tripled, but workers' wages stayed at $2 per day. To understand why these resources destroy, we must dissect the economic engines driving the curse, from currency woes to boom-bust cycles. Springer Nature's Review revisits institutions' role, noting centralized planning can exacerbate issues. The Cato Institute argues quality institutions determine if resources bless or curse. In the DRC, weak governance allows mineral wealth to stifle innovation. These dynamics reveal how minerals, vital for global tech, trap local economies in dependency. Behind the resource curse lies a web of economic mechanisms that transform abundance into adversity, starting with the infamous Dutch disease. Named after the Netherlands' 1960s gas boom, it describes how resource exports inflate currency values, making other sectors like manufacturing uncompetitive. In Australia, the mining surge appreciated the dollar by 20%, crippling exporters and causing 100,000 job losses in non-resource industries. Volatility amplifies this. Commodity prices swing wildly, with oil dropping 70% in 2014 to 2016, bankrupting budgets in Ecuador and leading to austerity riots. IMF studies show resource economies face GDP fluctuations twice as severe, hindering investment. Kazakhstan's uranium wealth led to 15% growth in booms, but minus 5% in busts. Crowding out occurs when governments neglect education and infrastructure, as in Gabon, where oil rents fund 40% of GDP, but literacy rates lag at 63%. Inequality skyrockets. In resource-rich Mongolia, the Gini coefficient hit 0.45, with herders displaced by mines. Eye-opening NBER research links this to reduced innovation. Patents per capita in oil states are 50% lower. Foreign investment often exacerbates, with enclave economies where multinationals extract without local benefits, as in Papua New Guinea's gold mines, employing few natives. But economics alone don't doom nations. Politics pours fuel on the fire, breeding corruption and dictators. Harvard's survey diagnoses how endowments lead to poor institutions. Economics Help explains civil conflicts over ownership add to traps. These mechanisms show why diversification is key. The resource curse's political venom turns leaders into leeches, fostering corruption and entrenching autocrats who treat national wealth as personal piggy banks. In Azerbaijan, oil revenues built the flame towers, while President Aliyev's family amassed $1.4 billion in hidden assets, per OCCRP investigations, with no need for taxes reducing public accountability. Authoritarianism thrives. Statistical analyses from Michael Ross show oil increases regime durability by 20%, funding security forces. Equatorial Guinea's Teodoro Obiang has ruled since 1979 on oil money, despite ranking 144th on human development. Corruption indices from Transparency International rank resource-rich nations like Libya 170th, with $220 billion in oil lost to graft since 2011. In Turkmenistan, gas wealth funds personality cults, suppressing media. Eye-catching scandals include Nigeria's $20 billion missing from oil accounts in 2014, sparking public movements amid security challenges. Rentier states, per theory, buy loyalty with subsidies, as in Iran, where oil funds the Revolutionary Guard. Beyond politics, the curse scars societies and environments, leaving irreversible damage. The annual review of resource economics discusses how resources affect poverty without graphic detail. Baker Institute advises on avoiding curse through partnerships. These political dynamics explain enduring inequalities. The resource curse doesn't just bankrupt economies, it breaks people and poisons the planet, creating social chasms and ecological disasters. In the Amazon, Ecuador's oil extraction has spilled 18 billion gallons of toxic waste, causing health issues to rise 150% among indigenous tribes, displacing thousands. Gender inequality worsens. In mining towns like Peru's, women's employment drops 30% as male-dominated industries rise. Labor challenges persist. In Bolivia's silver mines, workers face daily risks. Environmental devastation. Nigeria's 7,000 oil spills since 2000 have rendered farmlands barren, costing $5 billion yearly in lost agriculture. Climate links. Resource extraction emits 15% of global CO2, accelerating warming in vulnerable Arctic nations. Eye-opening is Indonesia's tin mining, eroding coastlines, displacing fishermen. Social unrest boils. Protests in Chile's copper regions over water scarcity affected communities. Yet, amid ruin, solutions emerge. Science Direct overviews how windfalls harm development. IMF's chapter on volatility ties to inclusive growth. Focus shifts to redemption paths. While the resource curse seems unbreakable, innovative solutions offer escape routes, turning liabilities into legacies of prosperity. Norway's $1.3 trillion sovereign wealth fund invests oil revenues globally, ensuring intergenerational equity with strict ethics, yielding 6% annual returns. Transparency initiatives, like the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI, adopted by 55 countries, mandate revenue disclosure, reducing corruption by 20% in adopters like Ghana. Diversification works. Chile's copper fund stabilized the economy, boosting non-mining growth to 4%. Community funds in Alaska pay residents $2,000 yearly from oil, cutting poverty 14%. International pressure. EU laws require tracing conflict minerals, curbing DRC issues. Eye-catching successes include Botswana's diamond management, achieving 7% growth and halving poverty. Education investments. UAE's oil funds built world-class universities. By fostering accountability, nations can rewrite their fates, proving resources needn't be a curse, but a catalyst for triumph. Thank you for joining this revelations-filled exploration. If this video helped you, make sure to like it. It really supports the channel. Subscribe for more videos like this, and share it with someone who'd benefit. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.